So, so you chose to get treatment in Kenya.
Yes.
And you did it here, and you went. But we know, I mean, 90% of people decide to. Okay, I can't. It's not affordable. Maybe the expertise in terms of experience is not as much. So, almost everyone decides to settle with India. What was your decision to stay here for?
Well, my initial decision, because I did both Kenya and India, my initial decision to use the Kenyan system is we're the same people who keep saying for you to be able to understand whether the system works, you need to be in it. And I work in the healthcare industry. So what kind of vote of confidence would I be giving if the minute something happens, I'm on the next flight out? So I purposed that I have confidence in the system that I work in and went in. And unfortunately, the doctor I picked ended up doing my nanos, and I lost that confidence. So I went to India. But what I got to understand about both systems, and for me in retrospect, it was good that I had to experience both sides, is that each side has its pros and cons. I remember I did my chemotherapy here, and I insisted that I have to do it here because one, I needed to have my family around me. I was not going to have chemotherapy in a foreign country with foreign languages, with foreign food, with now that would have been pure isolation. Okay. So India has its pros, but it also has its cons. It doesn't mean that everybody who goes to India comes back healed. We have a couple of people who don't make it in India, which is not what we get to hear. We hear that you go to India and it's a miracle cure. We also don't get to hear the stories of Kenyans who have gone through the system here from the 1980s when they were dealing with cancer, but in a much older generation. And I know somebody who's lived with it for over 20 years, those days. So what we need to figure out is get the right information, have a neutral outlook where you're looking at both the good side and the bad side of each system, then make your decision from there.
Okay. So there's not, no, I mean, what you're saying is that Kenya does have, I mean, you had one bad experience, but the expertise and the, you know, the proper treatments are available.
They are available.
Safe to say it's just the issue of pricing then. You know, obviously you cannot compete in terms of India in terms of pricing.
No. Yes and no. Because you see, look at it this way. So it could be cheaper, the test that you're doing or the treatment that you're doing in India could be cheaper there simply because they have the numbers and they have the expertise.
Your story is one in a million that I've heard about. I've been promoting local treatment because you know what everyone has to say about the system, the healthcare system, the costing of it all, and that's why everyone's settling on India. But I mean, if we could hear more stories about this, so I think the best thing to do is, if you're in this situation, like you, I mean, you'd agree, is research, get your options here, and do not overlook the importance of having your family around you, which you don't get when you leave.
Yes.
So are you still on any sort of treatment?
Well, yes, because my breast cancer was hormonal dependent. Okay. So I'm on hormone suppressants for the next, supposed to be 5 years, so I'm done with 2, 3 more to go. Then after that, then we review. So right, what ends up happening is, once you're done with treatment, is when now you're given the condition of remission. Okay. So your cancer cells are in remission; they are dormant. Okay. So you then have this phase, which for me is the 5 years, that you're on a suppressant that provides an environment that is not habitable for the cancer cells to thrive. Yes. So once you're able to come out with no events or recurrences within the 5 years, is when now you can be declared cancer-free. Okay. So I'm really crossing my fingers for the next 3 years that nothing happens.
We hope for the best.
Yeah, so, but that said about the local system, it's one of those things that I keep telling people, don't just jump into the next plane simply because you've had it worked for somebody else. Do your research, ask questions, look at every single system, because like for me, what I've learned to do is just marry the two. Get what works in Kenya, get what works in India, and just tailor make my own program that works for me. So it's the same way, like I keep telling people I did my treatment on NHIF, and they covered up to 80% of the costs. A lot of people don't know that.
So this was from like when, in 2016?
In 2016.
So they actually covered the cost for the surgery and everything, that's what you're saying?
I did my surgery in September. they launched the super cover in October. So if I had done it in October, I would have gotten coverage of, I think at that time it was about 500,000. Then chemotherapy was covered 80%, so I only had to top up 20%. Radiotherapy is covered now for about 60 to 80%. So you do have, it may not be a perfect system, it has its bits and pieces, but it is a system. So once you're able to know that, so I will not use NHIF as an emergency, I'll not run in there and use the card. But if I have an appointment that's a month away and I do my pre-authorization now, by the time I need it in a month's time, it's ready. So it's just a matter of understanding the healthcare system that you are in.
When you understand it and apply it, it works.
Exactly.
So you're saying that, I mean, from the time of the surgery, even now, you're still using your NHIF card for your cancer treatment.
Yes.
And it's working for you.
And it's working for me,
So you're saying that it's a system that's working for you from then and now. And I mean, the system is, I mean, it's affordable because it's paying 80% and it's functional.
It's functional because then I'm able to save the little money that I have instead of dipping it all the way.
And you've not had to just jump into a plane and go to India for something that's locally done right now?
Because at the point we are in now, the diagnostics, and that's one of the things that I also did, compare the two systems. The diagnostics that I got in India and what I got back here in Kenya were literally duplicates of each other. So what we lack in Kenya is just, I always keep saying it's a big case of miscommunication, where you're not able to articulate what the doctor is telling you. You're not even in the space to understand that, and the doctor is spewing out all these medical terminologies to explain whatever is going to happen, and you've not internalized it. So you end up doing something else, the doctor ends up doing something else, and you clash, and something happens, and something happens and you get a bad outcome. So classic case when somebody came in and said that, no, I'm not doing radiotherapy, simply because when it was explained to her in layman's language, she was told, unaenda kuchomwa. And then like, no, I don't want to get burnt, because what she understood was with fire. So you see, you end up refusing treatment that works because you're not understanding
the way you processed it, the way you understood it.
And that's why essentially for me was the inspiration behind the Cancer Cafe. Just looking back at my journey and realizing that I had a relatively easy path, in as much as it was still chaotic, it was relatively much smoother than the typical journey, simply because one, I had support, a lot of it, and two, I had access to information, and not just grapevine information, but credible information that I could understand. And I realized I'm on the other end of 11 months of treatment and I'm done. And it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. So the Cancer Cafe was built because then what we used to do is, after my treatment, we'd always have these support groups, but the support groups are always in a hospital setting. Now imagine you're always in a setting where it reminds you that there's something wrong and somebody's trying to explain how not to be wrong in the same environment, and it just didn't work for me.
You need to take it out of there.
Exactly. So what we'd end up doing is, when the nurses would be having their shifts changing, they would go have a cup of tea at the cafeteria, and that's where we would sit with my family members and friends, and we'll have that conversation. So be like, so how was treatment today? How are you feeling? This is what you're going to be expecting. So they're more easy, they're more laid back, they're taking more time to just explain.
And it's a friendly environment.
A friendly environment. And I remember one of my siblings just telling me, Muthoni, we've learned so much about cancer that we had no idea from the appointments that we were going at the doctor's place, just from sitting down and listening to what the doctors and the nurses are having the conversation among themselves. And epiphany moment. Why can't we not do the same thing? Because you know the way girls have their coffee dates with their girlfriends, boys meet in the evening to have a bottle before they go home, and they have that conversation. Now imagine if you throw in a doctor in that conversation and he's explaining over a bottle, okay, not a bottle of beer, because then beer, no, but over a glass of water, and he's explaining what he does every single day in a very simplified way that you're able to understand. So when somebody else comes and says, oh, we got a cancer diagnosis, automatically you'll remember, this is what Dr. explained. Exactly.
So you're demystifying it through something that people can relate to, like coffee. And
yes. So what the Cancer Cafe does is literally get the doctors out of the hospital setting, because if I go and see him in the hospital, there's a whole power. He's here, you're here as a patient.
There's a stigma related to it, there's a cost, there's a lot of things related to it.
But if you meet over coffee, we're pals. It's a neutral environment where I'll not be afraid to ask you those questions that kind of sounds exactly, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, great. So how long has the Cancer Cafe been up?
The Cancer Cafe has been up since September 2017.
2017, wow. And so where is it running from?
So we normally meet at All Saints Cathedral. There's a Jumuiya coffee house where they were gracious enough to give us an entire platform where we just meet, have tea, have some coffee, have healthy snacks, and just have a conversation.
And so what does somebody need to be part of this conversation? Somebody who's suffering from cancer? How does it work?
Anybody who, because what we're trying to do is to demystify what cancer is.
Okay.
To have it not be this big, mysterious, scary monster, and let it, you never see people being afraid of typhoid. Okay, we'll run around because you don't want to catch it, but you always know somebody is sorting that out and you're fine, you're safe. So, and you never hear people saying, oh, I was a malaria survivor.
Yeah.
So why do we have to categorize this condition and give it a label? Because then that segregates that person. I always struggle when people call me a survivor. I'm like, I didn't survive. I wasn't given an option. I literally had to live life. It wasn't surviving anything. It was going through this bump in my life, and I came out on the other side. So what the Cancer Cafe does is exactly that. We bring out the experts from their areas of work, have them sit down and just talk.
So if I want to be part of it just because I know somebody who's going through it and I can just come there.
And it's open, yes.
And so it's open to anyone?
It's open and it's free.
If you feel that that's information that you need to have access to for yourself or for a loved one or for a friend, then you just need to attend one of those.
Yes.
And that's it.
Yes. So for anybody who is going through any cancer diagnosis or any journey that might lead to a cancer diagnosis, all that I would ask you to do is just take care of yourself. It's okay to be selfish because then you need to take care of yourself before you can take care of others, but then also speak about it. Let people know around you what kind of support that you need. Tell them so that they can be able to help you. And for those who are healthy and living life, take care of yourself. Healthcare starts with you. The doctors are there to support you. They're not the ones who are going to get you out of the hospital, out of home, and bring you to hospital. You have to take that initiative. You have to take the initiative to eat right, live right, kill the stress, kill the beer and the alcohol, and just live the way our grandmothers lived. Healthy, pure lives that were simplified without all the complications that come with modern life.
That's so great. I mean, thank you so much for sharing this platform, Muthoni, and all the best in your treatment right now. I'm just so glad that it's going well, and big up on the Cancer Cafe, and I really hope all the viewers will actually take up this chance to actually come and to be part of it. That was a really big eye opener for all of us Kenyans here, that we always rush to India to get treatment for cancer. And when you are diagnosed with cancer, you just imagine death after. Muthoni's story is inspirational, but also, like I said, an eye-opener to a lot of us. It makes me want to do a lot of research as well to find out all the options we have right here in Nairobi, because from Muthoni's story, one thing we know for sure is we don't want to overlook the importance of having family around as part of your treatment. So, I mean, that's a bit of homework for all of us, isn't it? In the Holy Quran, chapter 2, verse 153, O you who believe, seek help with patience, perseverance, and prayer, for God is with those who patiently persevere. Have you subscribed yet to the Big Fat Talk Show? Click the link here now so that you don't miss any other episode.